After sewing our Victorian Corset top, this is the top on me. It's so beautiful and comfortable. Guys, if this tutorial interests you, kindly stay to the end. Hi everyone, you're welcome to the sewing part of our last tutorial. That's Victorian Corset. So guys, these are all the pattern. So we have 7 all together. I'm just going to be arranging it like this. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7. Each and every one of them is cut the lining and the actual fabric. So this is the actual fabric, this is the lining, and I went ahead to gum them with paper gum with interfacing both the lining and the actual fabric. So we're going to be picking them one after the other according to the numbers. Then we'll start sewing them. Then what I did is I added ½ inch allowance on all the sides except the sewing allowance of 1 inch we added. So except here and here, that's where I did not add allowance. Every other part I added ½ inch allowance all around it. Then I did not add on the hem because I added the allowance when I was drafting. And for the center front, I only added ½ inch because it is cut on fold. Now let's start sewing. So I'll start picking them one after the other, then I'll sew. So you're going to, the way your numbers are is how you arrange it. So I'm going to take the first one and I will open it up like this. Now anything I pick, I'm replacing the pattern paper on the lining so that I don't get confused when I want to sew the lining piece. So this is number 1. I'll take number 2. I'm going to take it, then I'll return the pattern paper on the lining, then I'll pin it back and I'm going to drop it like this. So I'm going to take this, it's going to come on this side like this, then this other side is going to come on this side. Then number 3, once I sew here and I sew this part and I open it up, I'll continue with number 3, I'll continue with number 4, then I'll continue with number 4, then I'll stop because this 4 piece is for the front. Then I'll also do that for the back separately. The 3 for the back, I'll sew them separately. So let's go and sew the front, then we'll come back to the back. So I'm going to sew the front lining and the actual piece, then before we come back to the back. After sewing the front, this is how it is looking like. Now this is the inside. And this is the lining as well. This is the lining. Now there's something I did. I made sure all the underbust matches with each other. So when you're cutting on your fabric, notch all your underbust so that you can start sewing from there. So I'm going to notch the rest. I'm going to notch every other thing. Now we are done with the front. So let's sew the back. Now this is the back. When you take number 6, indicate the underbust as well, so you can notch it. That is just my guide on when I'm sewing. So we are going to sew this one is going to come like this. Yeah, then this other one is going to come like this. So this is for this. Then I'll sew the lining too. Guys, I have sewed the 2 back, and this is the 2 back. I've also done that for the 2 lining. Now this is the 3rd one. This side is the side seam. Yeah, that is this side. This is the side seam. You will know from here that this is the side seam. Since here is the side seam, you take one of these and you place this one here and you sew it all the way down. Now here is the side seam. You can tell from this part. So here is where you are going to sew. So you're going to place this on this one and we are going to sew it down. It's going to be like this. So let's do that for both this and the lining piece. Now this is it after I've joined them together. So we're going to drop the back and work on the front. Now this is the front, the actual fabric. I've ironed everything. It is looking like this, and before we use our lining to turn it, we are going to be putting boning on the lining. Now this is the lining piece. I'm going to be taking my boning and we're going to be cutting boning on all of them, all the boning channel. We're going to be putting boning. Now you're going to leave ½ inch on the upper parts and you leave ½ inch on the down parts, because that is where the boning will not get to, so that you can turn your lining properly. So I'm cutting that, and I'll go ahead and cut 2 of it, one for that side and the other side. I am also going to cut boning on all the boning channel we created. I'm going to cut. I'll do the same thing I did. I will leave ½ inch on the upper part and the down part. Then for the center also, we're going to be putting boning on the center. Now I will iron the boning then before I sew it, because you have to iron your boning so it should lay flat. For the back piece, guys, I took the lining as well and we'll be putting boning on the back. Now we're going to put it on the boning channel, the 2 boning channel there, and I'm going to be creating another line for this back, because I want the back to have like 3 boning. It's going to be 4 at the end of the day. So I marked 2½ inch from the star line there, from the boning channel, and I also mark. So I'll be rolling the line, then I'll go ahead and sew it. So this is me rolling the line. I'll also do that for the second one. After sewing, guys, this is how it is. This is what we have, and I did that for the front as well. Then we're going to be turning the lining with the actual fabric. Now this is the front piece after sewing the boning too. The next thing is, before we turn with the lining, we are going to be making a case. Now this is what I did. I cut 1½ inches band and I sew ½ inch on both sides. You're going to sew ½ inch. No, sorry, before you sew, you're going to be ironing it rather. You iron ½ inch on both sides, then it becomes like this. Then you're going to sew it on all your star lines. When you are sewing, follow all your star lines and you sew on it, because we are covering all the star lines at the front and also at the back. For the back, we are going to be sewing only 2. Yes, one and the second one. So let's go and sew it, then I'll come back and show you guys. This is it, guys, after sewing the casing on the actual fabric. It is looking like this. It's looking all neat and beautiful. This is the back as well. So we are going to be turning it with the lining now. So we are going to take the front lining and the front actual fabric, and I'm going to be turning this upper part with, I'll sew it with 1/2 inch. I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch, then I'll now go ahead and sew the down part also like that. I'm going to be sewing with 1/2 inch. Then after sewing, I'll now pull it out from the side because I am not sewing the sides. For the back, take the lining as well. You're going to sew the upper part with 1/2 inch. After sewing, guys, this is how it is. I sew the upper part and I also sew that side. Then before we turn it out, I'm going to be placing a boning. So you take your Regine boning and you're going to place it that way, just the way you see me doing like that, and you sew the two sides. You're going to sew it. After sewing, then you will now sew your down parts with 1/2 inch. Then you can now pull it out from the side seam. Do you understand? I did that for the second part. So the total number of boning we have for this back is 4. Just sew them step by step, just the way you see me doing like that. I've gone ahead to do that, and I'm pulling it out now from the side seam. I've pulled out the two of them, and I'm going to be giving them a good press. I will also take the front and I will turn it out. Then I'm going to use a stitch to just hold the sides together. So this is the front, and I'm also pulling it out. So guys, this is how it is, and I'm also going to sew this side down. I've ironed it and I have sewed the two sides down just to hold the lining and the actual piece together. Now the next thing is to now sew our allowance. You know, we gave 1 inch sewing allowance, so the 1 inch is what you are still going to maintain. For the back also, you maintain the 1 inch and you sew the sides together. After sewing it, guys, this is how it is. Our Victorian corset is coming to life. This is how it is. I've weaved the edge of the seam allowance. The next thing is I'm going to be putting my eyelets. Yes, so I'm marking all the points where I'll put my eyelets. So from the down part, I went up by 5 inches. That is where the eyelets we get to. So this is me arranging the eyelets on it so you guys can know what I'm going to do. So you go ahead and fix your eyelets. Guys, this is it. I've fixed the eyelet. It is looking like this, and the next thing is to take another fabric. I cut it, then I'm going to be using this as our modesty panel. You can choose not to put a modesty panel, then you can choose to put, if you don't want your back, you know, exposed. So guys, after sewing the modesty panel, this is it. So I'm going to be placing the modesty panel inside. Let it go in after the eyelet. Just watch what I do. So when you place it like that, and you're going to be sewing the tip, so when you sew, it becomes like this. So guys, this is it. After sewing it, this is what I'm talking about. It is like this. So it's going to be inside. Then I'm going to just use my strap that I cut the Ankara. I cut the length that I want. You can cut any length, make sure it's very long. So this is me lacing it up at the back. After lacing, this is how the back is going to look like. So mates, if you've watched to this extent, kindly give me a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Now the next thing is to fix our sleeve. So we're going to be cutting the sleeve. Now I fold the fabric into four, then I am using 15 inches first. That is how wide I want it to be. So I roll the upper part that serves as my starting line. Then on the 15 inches, I went down by 2 inches. That will serve as our elastic casing. I also roll the line. After that, guys, I extend the 15 inches to the elastic casing. Then from there, I went down by 14 inches. 14 inches is the length that I want. You can decide to do any length you want, depend on how long you want your sleeve to be. Then from that point, I went down by 3.5 inches and I just connect that way. So guys, I'm just trying to put the armhole allowance that I want to sew. What I have there is a total of, I end up using 3 inches. Yes, I reduced it to 3 inches because the Victorian Corset does not have a sleeve armhole depth. So instead of doing 5 inches, I did 3 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So from that, I'm going to be connecting it all the way down. After that, guys, we'll be cutting. I'm cutting it off. So mates, this is how it is. Then I notch the 2 inches casing so I can have notch on both sides if I'm sewing it. Elastic casing. I went ahead to open it up and I indicate the back and the other side because the fabric actually look the same. Then I went ahead to fold the elastic casing. That way I folded it up to the notch. Yes. Then I'll sew that part. Then the other down part also we'll be putting elastic there. This down part is a small elastic, the upper one is a big elastic, so you also sew it. After sewing, guys, this is how it is. Then that is the down part also. Then the elastic I cut elastic of 10 inches for this upper one, for the big elastic. Then that down one, I just put the elastic there and I sew and I drag it to my width, to the edge of my hand where I want it to be. After sewing it, this is how it is. Now we're going to be attaching it to our Victoria corset. Now you're going to take the side seam and you place the side seam of your elastic on it. Then you sew up to one end, you sew up to the other end, making sure your side seam of both the corset and the sleeve matches each other. You go ahead and do that for the second one. After sewing, guys, this is what we have. We are done with this tutorial. It is looking all beautiful and neat. Now this is how it is. So mates, if you find this video helpful, subscribe to my channel, give me a like, drop a comment for me, let me know your thoughts. This is the back also. And kindly watch the drafting part of this tutorial. It is very, very important. I'll see you next time. Bye.